Alright Reds, this is Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index, and this is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. What's something you'd always wanted to learn? Remember back when you were a kid, always curious, always discovering something new. Now think about this, as an adult, do you still spark that joy of learning new things? Whether it's gardening, picking up a new language, or maybe mastering bowling to outshine your best friend, it's essential to keep that spirit alive. And guess what? Therapy can be a fantastic way to reconnect with your inner student, your sense of wonder. Because truly, the back-to-school vibe isn't just for kids or young adults, it's for everyone at any stage of life. Now, I haven't used BetterHelp myself, but I've seen firsthand how therapy can dramatically shift perspectives. It's not just about heavy issues, it's about enhancing your everyday life, learning to cope better with daily stress, setting healthy boundaries, and empowering yourself to be the best version of yourself. It's a space where anyone can benefit from a little extra insight and support. So why BetterHelp? Well, it's therapy that fully adapts to your timetable, and it's all online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and they'll match you with a therapist. And if you feel the need to change therapists, you can switch anytime without an extra charge. How's that for flexibility? With over 5,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp offers a wide variety of specialists ready to help you rediscover your curiosity and tackle new challenges. Visit betterhelp.com/index today. There's a bonus. Get 10% off your first month. Remember, that's betterhelp.com/index. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp and keep on learning no matter where you are on life's journey.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. It's a funny one, ladies and gents. Whenever I say Stat Me Up, I always just sing a little bit in my head of Start Me Up from the Rolling Stones. Always an interesting one. But speaking of hipsters, I've got the Hungarian one himself with me, Ben Boksak. Ben, how are we during this international break?
Already bored, and I made the very wise decision to have a nice day out with my girlfriend and not watch Hungary get battered by Germany. So, I'm quite happy about that choice. Not happy about the result, obviously, but I'm just glad that it's over now. We're speaking, and it's finally over, and we can just look ahead to some big, exciting games in the next few weeks, months ahead for Liverpool until October, when there's another international break.
Yeah. Full disclosure, ladies and gents, just for anyone senses the tone, I despise international football. I think we're both sat there thinking, why the hell have we got all these games when we just had the Euros, the Copa, and everything else? But here we are. We have players returning to Liverpool, as we know, Ben, some in different circumstances and others, unfortunately, so we'll get into that as well. And as much as we want to talk about everything else, we should really talk about international football and the Liverpool players, because it has been an interesting one. Our players are all over the world. They're playing in different tournaments, having some real effect, which for me is a disaster personally for their country, but we'll talk about a few players. Now, the two it is natural to focus on is Trent and Gravenberch, Ben, because they've had a sensational start to the season. There's no two ways about it. Been brilliant for Liverpool so far. Unfortunately, Holland and England have realised they're good players as well at the same time, it seems, and made them kind of mainstays. Almost, to be honest, let's not mince our words here, Ben. These two have been creating the highlight reels, haven't they, for their teams? And we can talk about that and other things, but we do talk about stats primarily on this show. I mean, they passed the eye test by an absolute yard and a half here, Ben. But what have the stats said specifically around Trent and Gravenberch during this international break?
think one that stat that really stood out for me about Trent is he created 5 chances against Finland. And I saw Opta do a post about how since 2019, he's the only English player to create 5 chances 3 times in a single match since 2019. So I think that just shows how underappreciated he has been. But in the Finland game, he made 18 passes into the final third, which was the most in the game. Crazy numbers, really. His passing numbers were really high. Even against Ireland, I think he made 13 passes into the final third in that game.
Wow.
Averaged around 100 passes per game, 94 against Ireland and 98 against Finland. Just really dominant. I think the fact that 28 passes in both games were forward passes as well just gives you the kind of quality that he offers and the kind of quality that, for some bizarre reason, Southgate has overlooked. Then Gravenberch as well. I think he had a good game against Bosnia, but Bosnia is Bosnia, and then Germany is a different matter. And I was really impressed by him against Germany. He won the most duels for Netherlands, which is 6. He did lose 6 duels as well, but that's still decent-ish. Won 2 out of his 2 tackles, completed 2 out of 3 dribbles, 3 chances created, some great passing in that game as well. 90% passes completed. And obviously, both got an assist in those Tuesday night fixtures. Just really looked the part. And I think they are probably the biggest winners from this international break, I would say. Probably, unfortunately, for Liverpool, because they were 2 players who were kind of on the fringes of their national teams, and you didn't expect them to play as many minutes. But it seems like in October, unless there's injuries, they are going to be heavily involved again.
Yeah, unfortunately, Holland and England seem to have woken up to what they've actually got on their hands. Like Ben said, I mean, from an international point of view, there's positives in the sense of both got assists. I mean, both should have had one more, because that Gravenberch half volley pass was absolutely sensational. And I can't remember who the Dutch player is, but puts it straight at the keeper's leg. Trent plays that delicious ball through to Anthony Gordon, so both should have an extra assist on their name. Trent gets man of the match in both. Gravenberch gets man of the match in one. Rafa van der Vaart, who spends his life criticising Virgil van Dijk, is absolutely praising Ryan Gravenberch galore. So you could see that as all positive. However, as you said, Ben, does it really feel like good news? Because Trent plays 180 minutes. Gravenberch, I don't really see it as good news from a Liverpool point of view, but unfortunately, God, I never thought we'd say this. Maybe Gareth Southgate still being at the helm might have been a good thing, but there we go. That is how those two are dominating international football in the break. And I mean, there's been a few others. We shouldn't just put it all on 2 players. I saw that Jarell Quansah got man of the match for England under 21, so it'd be good to see twice as well, so how he's getting on. And if there's any other stats or standouts for any other international performance at all?
I thought the one game that I did watch is Northern Ireland play, being the hipster that I am, because I was interested about Conor Bradley. And I thought he had a really good game in Northern Ireland's first game during this international break. He won the most duels on the pitch. And what was really interesting for me is they kind of moved into midfield. So he started off as a wing back and then moved into the midfield, which he has been doing a lot for Northern Ireland, like kind of playing as a central midfielder. And I thought that was interesting from Liverpool's point of view, because obviously we've been speaking about Trent playing in midfield for so long, but it seems like Bradley's got that trait, that ability, and sort of did a deep dive and read about some of his youth coaches who said actually they think like he can be kind of like Steven Gerrard in the middle of the park. And another one I wanted to highlight, again, being the hipster that you say I am, I was keeping an eye on St. Kitts and Nevis's international games, and there was a player involved from Liverpool in those games called Kyle Kelly. And he actually did get an assist as well in his first competitive start for St Kitts and Nevis. He's featured in 2 friendly games before against San Marino, but this was the CONCACAF Nations League. And yeah, he managed to get an assist, made some nice runs, won 6 out of 12 duels, 2 key passes. Overall had a really productive 63 minutes on his competitive debut. And, I think he's quite a versatile player. I don't know if he's going to be a future Liverpool first team player, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye out in the academy. And, he's, again, a testament to that academy that, they're not just producing players at the highest level, but they're producing players who can then go on to represent other nations. And I'm sure Kelly will have a good career, if not at Liverpool, somewhere in the English Football League. And I think those are the 2 that I wanted to highlight. Being Hungarian, maybe I should probably talk a little bit about Dominik Szoboszlai, because I think it's a very frustrating game on Tuesday night against Bosnia. He was very involved, as he always is for Hungary. Created 8 chances in the game, completed 91% of his passes. A lot of the chances he created were from set pieces, but even from open play, he was quite active in creating chances and trying to do something. And in all fairness, the amount of chances he created, Hungary should have put a couple away. I thought he was quite frustrated, and he even brought up he was asking the journalist what the XG was after the game, but obviously there's no Hungarian word for it, so he said it in English, which I thought was interesting. Kind of combined the 2 languages, and at the time, I think the journalist he asked had no idea. I wish I was there, because I could have said I had those numbers available, but unfortunately, I did not travel out for this game. But yeah, I thought he was good from a Liverpool point of view to see him create so many chances. Likewise with Trent Alexander-Arnold, that's something we've discussed on this podcast, how in slot system, we're not just seeing Alexander-Arnold and Salah stand out, but we're seeing Diaz creating chances and Szoboszlai creating chances. So the fact that he's still maintaining that international level bodes well for when we head into Nottingham Forest and the games this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. From an international perspective, they're all good. Like we say, though, ladies and gents, it's hard to escape too much, isn't it? All the minutes those Liverpool players have played, as me and Ben were talking about before we started the pod as well, feels like Argentina have taken a massive risk with Alexis McAllister there, doesn't he? So we'll have to see what state he comes back in. And then we had the bad news this morning, didn't we, from various sources? Harvey Elliott is out with a fractured foot, looking at late October for his return. So it's hard to be too cock-a-hoop about international football. But as Ben said, the Reds are back. And they're back against Nottingham Forest. Proper football, Ben, this weekend. And almost a proper kickoff time as well. Saturday, 3:00. We don't really get too many of these, it seems. We've got 2 in a row with Forest and Bournemouth with Milan in between. But Forest at home, I don't know why, and it's probably a bad thing. I've got a good feeling about this, actually. What is the record like against Forest at home? If someone asked me on the surface, I'd have said pretty good, but I'm hoping you're not going to tell me any different at all.
No, it is very good. In the league, Liverpool haven't lost at Anfield to Forest since 1969. So
nice.
Very good record. Won the last 2 Premier League games as well. Won the last 4 Premier League games. And the fewest goals Liverpool scored in those 4 games was 3. So
wow.
Pretty high scoring games. 17 goals in those 4 matches in total for Liverpool. But I think I will sort of caution this a little bit, because if we're looking at Forest's start to this season, all the numbers would suggest that they will be tough to break down, and they are not going to be an easy opposition. They've started quite well in the Premier League. Only City have averaged fewer expected goals against them this season.
Wow.
So City have 2 expected goals against them. Forest have 2.1, and then Liverpool are third with 2.4. So that's a really strong start defensively. The second most aerial duels, so strong in the air, strong from set pieces. 50 aerial duels behind only Everton, who've got 54. And they won't sit back either. They've actually taken the most shots in the league with 53. Above Liverpool are second with 48 shots. So the numbers would suggest they are compact. They will be tough to break down, but they will kind of go for it and, have quite a few shots. I think 53 shots in 3 matches is a very high volume. So if they can replicate the numbers based on that early start, it's not going to be a completely sort of breeze in the park for Liverpool.
Yeah, no two ways about it. They made some interesting signing, didn't they? They got James Ward-Prowse in on loan. I think they've got the left sort of centre-back, can't remember his name, from Benfica. Even got giant Carlos Miguel, or 6'8" of him. Milinkovic is a huge player at centre-back. So, yeah, it is interesting, because normally you think, especially Nottingham Forest, they were horrendous last season. We can say that honestly. But they have had a very good start. This will not be, I think, the cruise that people think it is. But we will have to see.
I will add, they've only played Southampton, Bournemouth and Wolves. So
yeah,
they are unbeaten in those games. But again, with early numbers and stats, it is worth keeping in mind the oppositions that they have faced and that they've recorded those numbers against, because Southampton is a newly promoted side.
Yeah.
Was obviously battered by Chelsea.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth, I'm never really sure with Bournemouth. It could go either way. I haven't quite decided where I think they will finish this season, if they're going to be a mid-table team, slightly competing for Europe, which is, I think, they got it in them as a potential, but they've also got it in them to be in the relegation battle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can never really predict after 3 matches, but they've made an impressive start, that's clear. This is going to be their biggest test by far, and obviously the record that they haven't won at Anfield since 1969 is there as well, in the league, that is.
I don't need a VPN, I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Hopefully that does weigh very heavy on their shoulders. We will have to wait till Saturday to see. And it'll be an interesting one, that. And like you said, Ben, the games come thick and fast, because as soon as we blink and we're at Forest, they'll be heading out to Milan. It almost feels like it's an eternity since we played in the Champions League. I know that's not exactly the case, but the opening one is Milan. Pretty much a week today, isn't it? An 8 o'clock kickoff, as Champions League all are. Yeah, we kind of alluded a little bit to Milan in our record. What's our record like in these first Champions League games when we step into the opening Champions League games? Are we okay? Do we usually start well? struggling to remember, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I think that's because we probably collectively erased our opening Champions League game of 2022-2023. It was away from home to Napoli, and we got absolutely battered 4-1.
Oh, yeah.
That was when Napoli were really at the top of their powers, and they destroyed us, we have to say. I think that was probably one of the most one-sided games we played on the clock in a negative way.
Yeah.
But, it's been up and down. I would say that the biggest sort of thorn in our side has been Napoli on the clock. The 6 Champions League campaigns that we had on the clock, we've only lost twice in the opening games, and they were both to Napoli and both away from home.
Wow.
We actually played Milan at home the season before the 4-1 defeat to Napoli. That was a 3-2 win.
Yeah.
So that bodes well for us. Then we played Ajax away the season before that, 1-1-0. Then there was a 2-0 defeat to Napoli, completely different Napoli side, but again, it was a decent Napoli side. Then I think we had my favourite sort of opening game, which was the PSG one, where we won 3-2, and Firmino got nice. I think it was a nice goal that he scored, and that he got the winner. And then a more forgettable one was the 2-2 draw with Sevilla. We had a few frustrating results with them. But in terms of playing away from home in Italy, in the opening Champions League games in the last decade or so, it's 2 defeats out of 2 so far. So that's something that Liverpool will want to fix. And we spoke about this on the previous podcast. They have although brief, but very good record against the AC Milan at the San Siro.
Yeah, fingers crossed that continues. And I did want to ask you about this, because I know you tweeted this, that speaking of good records against AC Milan, the new boy, Federico Chiesa, he's got a pretty decent record. And to be honest, in this, Ben, it wouldn't be any surprise if he came in for this, would it? And, because you've got to rotate, you can't just keep playing the same team. You wouldn't be surprised if it's the strongest they can muster for Forest, and then Chiesa comes in for that first start. It would not be a surprise at all. But what's his record actually like against AC Milan?
Yeah, I think, if you're looking at his fitness, probably 20-30 minutes, maybe against Forest, depending on how the game goes. And then potentially this could be his first start. And I mean, what a start that could be. This is a team and this is a stadium that he loves playing in and playing against. So he's averaged a goal or assist every 68 minutes at the San Siro against AC Milan. Played 6 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, so mainly been creating chances. But yeah, he's got a very good record, and there's been a few times when he's absolutely destroyed AC Milan in their own backyard, and I think that bodes really well for Liverpool. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is doesn't just have a good record against AC Milan, but the other Italian side, Bologna.
Yeah.
The only Serie A hat-trick he's ever scored in his career came against Bologna.
Wow.
He's also scored the most goals against Bologna as well. So both Italian sides, I think Chiesa will have been sort of rubbing his hands to play at the San Siro against Milan, where he's got such a good record, and to play against Bologna, who he scored the most goals against in his career so far. Those are sort of kind of tasty fixtures for him to maybe, showcase the Liverpool faithful what he can do against opposition that he knows very well.
Interesting. I think it's 2025 we played Bologna in that one, isn't it? Right, in January. There's a few before then, but wow, keep an eye on that. Yeah, it would be zero surprise to see Chiesa kind of step up from that supporting cast and be a key player against AC Milan. It'd be great. And speaking of supporting cast, Ben, I mean, listen, the rotation is going to have to come. It's not whether about we want it. 7 games in 21 days. It is going to have to come. There's a few walking wounded, as we said, like McAllister coming back. Harvey Elliott, not so much. Others who will be tired, like say, all those minutes to play. So it is worth looking at who we think could sort of step up and will be needed to step up. There's no two ways about it in this period at the same time. Tyler Morton. I know you love some Tyler Morton propaganda at times. I know he's a player you love. So it wouldn't be a surprise, actually, if he did get a shot, to be honest, against Milan or in some of these games. I mean, Tyler Morton, this stage is yours now, Ben. I know you love this player. What stats can you give us?
I mean, he's already played at the San Siro and did very well. Got 5 interceptions, won 3 out of 3 offensive duels, 7 passes into the final third, 14 forward passes. I think Klopp, after the game, praised his footballing brain and his intelligence, and spoke about how smart he was on the pitch. And we saw that during the international break as well. For England's under-21 side, Morton came in and started the game, and again, nice, really good touches. He's just such a comfortable player on the ball, and he doesn't really tend to lose the ball. He makes smart passes, kind of plays. I mean, it's a big comparison, and I don't want people to get carried away with it, but just a tiny bit like Thiago Alcantara. Even in pre-season, I know we didn't get to see a lot of him in pre-season, but I was sort of counting up his collective passes in all the games that he featured, which was 56 overall, and he only misplaced 3 passes from 6. So he's quite comfortable. The one thing that I think when he was at Liverpool last, before his 2 loan spells, that I think I read in the Linders book that he released, and Jurgen Klopp's comments as well, about sort of him needing to improve physically and needs to be better in running his duels. Obviously, we know Arne Slot, that's like a buzzword for him, winning duels. So I did, for Anfield Index, I wrote an article purely also just sort of analysing his defensive duel success rate among his sort of midfielder peers, so among under-21 players in the Championship. Last season, he ranked 3rd behind Archie Gray and Jordan James. Gray, they've both gone on to make big moves this summer.
Yeah.
Morton won 60.48% of his defensive duels. Gray was 2nd with 60.5%, so very marginally better. And Jordan James, again, marginally better at 61.68%. And then the previous season, when he was at Blackburn, he actually averaged more defensive duels as well. So that season for Hull, he averaged 5.83 defensive duels, which against around 6 defensive duels, and winning 60% is really good.
Yeah.
For Blackburn, he was closer to 7 with 6.92 per game, and he won 65.24%, which was the highest among under-21 midfielders in the Championship at the time. So it seems as though he doesn't look the biggest. I mean, I saw the under-21 game. He's still quite slight, and we've seen him in pre-season as well. But statistically, in a very physically demanding Championship, he still seems to sort of come out on top on average quite a lot of the time. I mean, if we're looking at sort of Wataru Endo, for example, as his last game against Bahrain, he lost about, I think, 8 duels and only won 3 in a 5-0 win for Japan. If duels is the buzzword, then maybe Morton at this stage potentially deserves a shot ahead of Endo based on current form and things like that, because, I mean, I want to emphasize this, Endo was known as the duel master and the duel king in Germany, and towards parts of sort of last season we saw that but in this system, we haven't quite seen it yet. We saw him struggle quite a few times.
Interesting. Yeah, well, it would be zero surprise to see Tyler Morton get minutes, especially, as we say, with the Harvey Elliott, Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai's played plenty of minutes, so has Grav and Burke. It would not be a surprise to see him in the mix. You've alluded to Endo there as well, and the dual master. It'll be interesting to see if he can. Maybe he'll just be needed almost because of all the lack of options, the need to rotate. One youngster that I wanted to ask you about, young Trent Ione. Absolutely brilliant pre-season. Very young, so we have to be careful about putting too much pressure on him. Can you make a case for him to get minutes, be it in a little bit of a Champions League, a Carabao Cup, for instance, anything like that at all, Ben?
Absolutely. Look, he's got 4 goals in his last 4 games. That includes the goal against Sevilla.
Yeah.
For the under-21s, and then 2 during the international break. When we're talking about defensive duels, he participated in 15 against France and won 9, which is quite high. But I do see him. Slot played him as a winger in the Betis game, or Sevilla. It was Sevilla that he played. So I do see him more of like an offensive player rather than playing that Gravenberch role at the moment.
Yeah.
I think if he was going to cover anyone right now with Elliott's injury, it would probably be Szoboszlai coming in for that attacking midfield role. He's just so glides past opposition at times, and in those 2 goals that he scored for England, what I noticed, he was really good at sort of making runs into the box and finding that space inside the box, which is what slot one Szoboszlai to do and what Szoboszlai has been doing. So I think that role could work really well for him, and there should definitely be a time, with League Cup games, probably not the toughest of Champions League tests, not now, because at the next few Champions League games are going to be quite tough, but when there is a home game against who was it? Bologna, or a home game against Girona, those are the kind of games that maybe potentially he could feature in. So I think as well, if we're winning 3-0 up and there's no Elliott on the bench, he's still injured in the Premier League, then again, those are opportunities that Ione should be getting, because based on how he's performing, based on what he's done in the first team pre-season, he's definitely pushing on that door, and I think he's probably the most exciting sort of young prospect in this Liverpool team at the moment.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And even that Carabao, it feels like a free hit the way the season's going. It would not be a surprise to see him in, which will be excitable for a lot of Liverpool fans. And we alluded to this player a little bit, the dual master, as you called him there, Wataru Endo, who actually scored, didn't he, for Japan? I saw as well, he's played a bit of football. He feels like he is the forgotten man a little bit. It was quite clear that, without being too harsh, Slot just doesn't fancy him for whatever reason, as we know more realistically about his style. It's a different 6 he's looking for realistically. Is there any case that Endo could get minutes, or is he that forgotten man, soon to be almost completely forgotten?
Like I mentioned, based on the stats in the Bahrain game, and I didn't watch it, I saw the highlights, I saw that Japan won, but he won 2 out of 9 defensive duels. That doesn't scream as a player in great form, and I know, winning duels is just one part of the game. There are other aspects, but it doesn't fill me with confidence about the kind of form that he's in. And even just sort of like the passing numbers, 8-9% pass completion rate, you kind of expect against Bahrain. It's difficult to judge him based on those performances, because Bahrain and China as well are such low-level opposition that you expect him to do well in. And for me, duels being the buzzword, the fact that Slot has highlighted that, and the fact that we saw him really struggle to win those duels against Real Betis, the fact that he's really struggling against Bahrain to win those duels as well, those defensive duels, is a bit of a question mark for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. He carries so much experience. He's a captain, international leader, but at the same time, when we're going to need this supporting cast more than ever, and they will have to play minutes, be it the cups, even just as a cover, isn't it? For the last 20, we know Slot's not adverse to doing that, bringing the stars off at, say, 65, 70. You just wonder about Endo and how he might be seeing his lot come January. But we will have to see. There is a lot to be decided. I mean, it sounds crazy to see this. It's already had a big gap then, and we've talked internationals. By the time we talk, if we do it at sort of a week's time, we'll have Forest to talk about. And depending on when we do it, we might even have Milan on the verge of it or being completed. There is a lot of football, and there's a lot that's hard to gauge, isn't there, between now and next week even also.
Yeah, we're going to be busy people now until October.
Yeah. Basically, if you're a Liverpool fan, if you enjoyed your international break, the sunshine or whatever, suck it up, I'm afraid, because it is about to change very, very quickly. But we are at our end, ladies and gents. So all it leaves me to say is ever to Ben, for the insight, for the stats, for the discussion. Thanks as ever, pal.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, unlike I enjoyed the international break.
Yeah, thank God that's over, eh? Let's hope they all come back and we see the photos fighting fit. But from us at Stat Me Up, that was another one at Anfield Index.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.